to the Exec Club podcast, where we learn and hear from entrepreneurs and business owners. Today we have with us Dr. Murphy. He's the UAB Goodrich Chair of Entrepreneurship. He's had several students on Shark Tank and several students that have made multi-million dollars. He even wrote a book published by Yale and several books published by Harvard Business Review. Dr. Murphy, how's your day going today?
It's going really well. It's Friday, which is always good. I usually keep the mornings for unstructured time. So I had a lot of tea, and I'm working on some research right now, but now I'm over here at our local incubator and having meetings, and I'm kicking all that off with you. So I'm very excited.
That's great, and glad to have you on the podcast. So tell us about the UAB Entrepreneurship Program and how you're wanting to build community among business owners.
Sure. Well, the UAB Entrepreneurship Program is a very progressive university program. It's pretty non-traditional. So we don't do a lot of the usual things that you see in a university bachelor's degree program, like traditional exams and textbooks and things like that. What we do is we teach into the ecosystem, we teach into the community, and we're able to do that because the way we teach and the way we conduct our scholarly work in the UAB Entrepreneurship Program is very mission aligned. UAB is an urban university, and it has a mission that involves the city of Birmingham and our ecosystem. And so for entrepreneurship programs in general, including ours in particular, that gives us a lot of advantages for how we teach, because people like me can pull theories and frameworks out of the research literature, and then we can make them intelligible to students, but then it's very easy for us to show the students and the learners what the theories look like in the real world, because we have ecosystem partners that work with us in the context of team-based outreach projects, and they come in and collaborate and work with the students quite a bit. We do a lot of meetings with entrepreneurs and in-depth interviews, kind of like a podcast conversation like this, where we'll bring a founder into a classroom. So it's that's kind of the ethos of what we do. And then in addition to that, we have a really great curriculum, and we do build community extracurricularly through ecosystem programming and our alumni, which is a growing segment of the population we serve. So it's kind of internal, external, inside the university, outside the university. We do serve the city of Birmingham, greater Birmingham and beyond. We're starting to get more and more inquiries from across the state from entrepreneurs who want to partner with us and either hire talent or do consulting projects. So it's been going really well. It's very exciting, and we're very proud actually to be in Alabama. We love it here, and this wasn't on my radar. I just kind of ended up here, but things like this happen for a reason, I guess.
Well, we're glad you're here, and I know you came from Chicago, so glad you're in Birmingham, Alabama. And I know you're involved with Innovation Depot. Can you talk about that and what Innovation Depot does in Birmingham?
Sure. Innovation Depot is what we call you could call it an incubator, entrepreneurial incubator. You could call it a co-working facility, or an innovation hub, innovation entrepreneurship hub, I guess. But it's a large building in downtown Birmingham. It used to be a Sears retail store way back in the 40s and 50s, and then it became vacant. It sat vacant, actually, I think for a decade or something like that. And then a really enterprising, visionary woman named Susan Matlock turned it into what it is today. And I think that was in the early 2000s that she did that, maybe 2005, 2007 or something along those lines. But it is a place where startup entrepreneurs can get affordable rent for office space. If they don't want an actual room for an office, they can get a desk. And if they don't want and that's very affordable. And if they don't want a desk, they can simply purchase access to the building, which would allow them to enter and come to events and visit with people and work in the lobby, for example. And that's the most affordable of all. So it's a very community-oriented operation for the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And most cities have like multiple locations like this one. We have multiple ones here in Birmingham. Like we have Polaris Birmingham, we have Forge, we have Innovation Depot, which is where I'm actually located right now as I'm doing this podcast with you. But entrepreneurship is very downstream from culture. And so we had, when you mentioned Chicago, where I built my career, I was there for 20 years. We have incubator facilities there too. we probably have 40 of them in the city of Chicago, and 25 of
Wow.
them are probably the size of Innovation Depot, meaning about 100 entrepreneurs can fit in these places. The area of those places is not as big as Innovation Depot, but the height, they're like
Hmm.
multiple floors and buildings and all that. But the way Innovation Depot works is it's very Birmingham oriented, it's very Alabama oriented. So you'll get sectors that reflect the dominant forms of entrepreneurship here showing up. Whereas, in Chicago, that's a little bit different. The way we work with them and the way we recruit them and the program that we offered there was a little bit different than what we offer here. But it's a great facility. It brings in best practices and it attracts talent from all over the country. But the impact is oriented to make sense right here in our local ecosystem. And so the idea is that a startup will be here for a few years, maybe longer, maybe 10 years, or let's say, but they should achieve a level of success that allows them to leave the nest and set
Hmm.
up their own facilities, their own operations, or their own location. The word incubator is a metaphor. It's like for eggs or chicks, in those
Yeah.
early stages of a startup, they need a less hostile environment so they can get traction and grow.
That's great. I can see how it could be valuable starting out there. And I know you talk about how entrepreneurs need to be like Wayne Gretzky, the hockey player. Can you talk to me about that?
Entrepreneurship is very growth oriented, and meaning it starts as a recognition of a opportunity that's rooted to some kind of problem the entrepreneur wants to solve, and then the entrepreneur needs to formulate ideas in relation to the opportunity that they find. 9 out of 10 of those ideas probably won't get traction, but it's that ready, fire, aim, and trial and error logic that's very important here. But because we're talking about growth and evolution, it has to take place over time. It has to be longitudinal. A
Hmm.
snapshot of an entrepreneurial venture or any dynamically performing organization isn't going to be very meaningful. You need to take in multiple data points over time to get a sense of the trajectory and the trend. And so the hockey metaphor with Wayne Gretzky, if you have a dynamic process unfolding on a hockey rink, let's say, to be able to predict where the puck will be is hard to do. But if you have a way to read into that logic as you look at the performance field, you can skate, as it were, to the location of where the puck is going to be. And if you forecast that correctly, you will be there before anybody else is, and it will arrive where you are. So it's a
Hmm.
metaphor, obviously, for what an entrepreneurial venture would do in a dynamic ecosystem where customers move in random ways, partners, barriers, laws, culture, trends, technology, economic forces, all of these things that make up the environment will evolve over time. And the alert, aware entrepreneur moves in relation to that, but they can't just go to where everybody's crowding around some opportunity. If everybody's crowding around it, it's already too late. It's much better to go to where nobody is yet, to where you believe the trend will end up, in effect, skating to where the puck will be. And then you will be the first mover and you can take advantage and take control of the puck, possibly score a goal, and allow your team or your ecosystem, as it were, to win.
That's interesting. Thanks for sharing that. And I know you mentioned the ready, fire, aim. What do you mean by that when you say instead of ready, aim, fire?
It's really important that you engineer or embed risk into your action as an entrepreneur. You, I don't believe you can get reward without risk. I believe they come
Hmm.
together. It's a package deal. And so by if you take this metaphorical ready, aim, fire approach, it would mean that you get ready by conducting research and defining yourself and your organization and what you want to do. Uh, and then when you aim, which would come second in this non-entrepreneurial approach, you plan it out. You make a plan for the next 5 years, 10 years, whatever it may be. It could even be much longer than that. It's very interesting. Like a lot of Japanese companies, I don't know if they do this anymore, but they would make like 100-year strategic plans for the company. Um,
Yeah.
you aim, you plan where
Hmm.
you're going to need to go to hit the target that you want to hit. And then after you've sketched it out and put that plan down formally, then you take action, and that's fire. So in the entrepreneurial world, we flip the second and third stages so that you take action without having all the information that you need. Um, and you need to do that anyway, because even if you do try to collect all the information you need to launch an entrepreneurial venture, the environment that you're in is going to evolve. And that will make your plans either in part or in full irrelevant or need to be updated. So you're going to need to correct the plan anyway. So it's better to get ready as you can by understanding the environment that you're in and understanding the development of the new product and service, understanding the people that are with you, and sketching out the program, as it were, or maybe the blueprint for what you're going to do in order to get ready. But then take action. And you don't know where exactly your work is going to take you, but you receive feedback from the environment, which includes your customers or the people that you serve. And that feedback loop allows you to aim, which comes third after you take action. And you are, at this point, continually correcting your path as you proceed. And that is what evolution looks like. Anything that grows, like an entrepreneurial venture or a tree or a person, in an environment, as the environment changes, it grows and evolves in relation to that changing environment. And that is the third stage: aim, ready, fire, aim.
I really like that. Taking action and not waiting too long. Tell me, what are some trends you're seeing in the startup world right now in Birmingham, Alabama?
Social enterprise is a big trend that not enough people are talking about right now. Pretty much every entrepreneur that I work with, 70% of every entrepreneur I talk to, I would say, 7 out of 10 at least, has some kind of why or some kind of purpose behind what they're doing. And to the degree that they're technology entrepreneurs, that social purpose or ecological purpose tends to be stronger. You can take, for instance, our Techstars Accelerator here, which has an energy sector theme. Most of them are doing like green energy or sustainability or something which is ecological purpose. So there's a reason why, not just what they're doing, but why they're doing it behind what's going on. And then if I look more generally around Birmingham, as I said earlier, entrepreneurship is downstream from culture, and culture is an evolved context that involves the history of the development of your city or your state or your nation. And with civil rights and the history of civil rights here in Birmingham and the different communities that have evolved in relation to the civil rights phenomena that occurred in the 60s and since then, there is a strong sense of community orientation in the entrepreneurial activity that occurs in this ecosystem. And that is very closely related to what we call social enterprise. So that is entrepreneurship that can make money, it can generate economic value, but as it makes money, the same operational model it uses to make money can also generate social impact. And we like to think of the difference between social value and economic value as different only in terms of how you denominate that value. So just like you can count money and measure money and correlate amounts of money in relation to other types of scores that are empirical, you can count the impact in terms of literacy, education, crime levels, people who are helped, all these different ways to measure improvement in the social sector or the ecological sector can generate scores that are kind of like currency scores, and we can correlate them with entrepreneurial operations. That's really the heart of social enterprise, and my vision for the ecosystem is that in about 10 years, I would say it would take 5 to 10 years, I believe that we'll be a leading social enterprise hub nationally.
That's great. So another question I had was, how can business owners be good mentors to their employees or friends? I currently have some business owners and executives that are mentoring me in my business exec hub, and it's so valuable. So how can we encourage other business owners, executives, leaders to be good mentors?
Foster a really strong sense of community. I mean, we're really good here in our ecosystem at acting local and doing things locally. I think what the opportunity for us in our ecosystem, and it would create the kind of value that you're talking about more broadly, is that to spread a broader sense of community, to increase coordination amongst different communities and sub-communities here. We all share this space in Birmingham, to give a stronger sense of what is our identity as a community. And as people get that, no matter whom they are, They're different people, different diverse people, all from Birmingham. With a larger sense of Birmingham, the individual entrepreneur takes on and develops a sense of something larger than themselves, their individual selves. And once you have that, you start doing things that are good for your community, good for your family, your community, your neighborhood, your sector, your industry, your group, whatever it may be. I think reminding people of the community over and over and over again to make a stronger sense of shared purpose in our community is the key to motivating individual people who are all different in terms of what they do as entrepreneurs, in terms of their backgrounds, in terms of many different variables, to give them that motivation to make a difference in a way that goes far beyond themselves. And the first best way to do that is to help others who are in your community with you, who may not have the level of experience that you do and may not have done all the things that you've done, but you can share with them and help them do better at what they're trying to do because there's some overlap with what you've done. And that's really what a good mentor is. A mentor is not a competitor. A mentor should not be upset if you do better than they ever did. You know, that should make the mentor happy. The mentor should want that, kind of like a parent with a child. But that all comes from a strong community orientation, very similarly to how it all comes from a strong family orientation.
That's really good. So tell us what are some qualities that make for a good startup from the investor side to look at, then also if someone's looking to start a business themselves?
I think from the investor side, if we were to boil it down, there's 5 questions that I look at, that I talk about. And I have been part of angel groups, and I have been involved in deals on that side of the table. And I do know a lot of investors who are active right now. 5 questions, and this will be helpful for entrepreneurs, but when an investor looks, if they're looking to get a return, these are usually the 5 questions in their head that are implicit, if not explicit. The first one is, who are you? Meaning the entrepreneur tells the person they're pitching to about their background and their experience and their talent in a way that's really palpable. You should get a sense of you as the pitcher. The entrepreneur who's pitching to them should give them a very clear sense of your personal style, what your values are, how long you've been doing this type of work, how deeply you've been doing this work, and include your team if you have one. Who are they? Who are you? First question, I think, in an investor's mind is it starts there. And then the next 3, let's say, questions are all related, and they're very practical. How much do you want? How much do I get back? And when do I get it back? So in your pitch, there should be an ask. We need this much. If it's pre-seed, seed money, Series A, whatever, the amounts tend to increase as the venture grows. But how much is the investor being asked for, or the group being asked for? How much do you want? How much do I get back? This is like a bank, like an investor, like whomever. They're going to invest this much, but how much of it can they reasonably expect to get back? The return, the ROI. And then third is, when do I get it back? In a few years, like a quick hit, or is this a longer term type of investment? You can answer that as an entrepreneur who's pitching clearly, explicitly sometimes, but usually it's more of an implicit answer that comes across when you show an experienced investor data about the size of the market, about the sales cycle, about any new additions of the offering, like you may have to roll out 2.0 or 3.0, or you may never have to do that. There's a lot of things that make up the interface between an entrepreneurial venture and its product or service, and the market and its customers, or the community and its constituents where they interact. And a good investor can look at that and get a sense of, okay, here's how much they want, here's how much I get back, and here's when I get it back. But those 3 questions need to come across as explicitly and clearly as possible, but usually it's going to be more implicit. And then the 5th question that an investor will ask implicitly, typically, is, do I believe you? And I don't think the entrepreneur can answer that directly. That is something that the investor has to ask themselves based on what they've heard. Who is that entrepreneur? How much do they want? How much will the investor get back? When will the investor get it back? The investor thinks hard about, do I believe them? That's the fifth question. So that's a very simple, oversimplified kind of framework for thinking about venture deals. It's good for entrepreneurs to know that, but great investors kind of work through those in their mind. And then on the other side of the table, where the entrepreneur is, I think it's very important. And again, these are very kind of superficial, simple answers to your question,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's very important to simply answer, what is the problem you're solving? I think if an entrepreneur comes in with the posture that they're selling a solution rather than solving a problem or fixing a
Mm-hmm.
problem, having a very strong problem solving, fixing problem orientation to what they're doing, it comes across a lot better because that's where the traction is. And you need traction to get the friction and the growth and everything else that comes out of it. But that's one thing that I find to be very important. And then if I think about our ecosystem in particular, one last thing that I'll share in answering this question is, I don't think people co-found enough. I think there's too many solo
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs, and that's particularly a problem in certain communities that lack access. There's a lot of solopreneurs, and you can do so much more if early on you start looking, and then eventually you find somebody that shares your vision, but they bring different gifts and resources to the table than you do. And then you get that complementarity and that synergy that's really important to a winning entrepreneurial team. I don't think people do that early enough because they don't think they need it and they don't understand they need it early enough. But if you're a solopreneur and what you're doing gets traction, you'll find out very quickly that you can't do it all yourself, and you'll know very
Mm-hmm.
clearly what kind of talent you need. And then that can be hard because it can be hard to find talent, and you may get stuck until you find the person who really knows how to sell or how to move into a particular market or community or develop a particular technology or do simple financial or accounting work that you may not be able to do, or use programming language that you
Mm-hmm.
may not understand. You may not be able to do anything until you find that person. So if you get that on your radar as early as possible and always think about it, I think you can get ready sooner and set yourself up for better action later.
Very interesting. Well, we've just really enjoyed having you on here, Dr. Murphy, and everybody should connect with him on LinkedIn. And everybody have a great week.